This is part 3, lecture 7. When government is giving to some at the expense of others, unethical relationships can develop. We're talking here about really, when you're spending money, it matters who's making the decisions, and when you're earning money, it matters who you're getting, how you're getting that money. Right? If you're taking that money from others, or whether or not you're having to earn that money yourself, your opinion of how that money should be spent really matters. So let's actually watch this video here that has to deal with that concept. Let's see here. I hate the background audio. I apologize, but this demonstrates that point pretty well.
Hello. Yes, I hope so. Tooth extraction. One tooth, but I need to ask you for a quote first. I need to know your lowest price. One tooth to be taken out, lowest price. Okay, well, just assume it's an easy one. Assume the cheapest one. Lowest price is the main thing here. 1,600. Okay. Does that include a nurse assisting you? Yeah. Right, well, how about if we leave out the nurse and just tag it in on the end of someone else's appointment? How much would that be then? 1,200. That's still more than I thought it would be. Why so much? An hour of your time. Okay, well, I understand that because you gently remove the tooth, that it takes a long time, but price is an important thing here, so don't worry about gently removing the tooth or anything. How much for a quick 10-minute get it out extraction? 900, still too high. Does that include pre-injections, those little jabs you give that just numb up the gun before the main injection? Yeah? Okay, well, what if you leave those out? Yeah. No, well, I understand it will be much more painful, but low price is the more important thing here. What's your lowest price without the pre-injection? 700. Well, that's obviously better, but I may have mentioned low price is the most important factor here, so is there a way you can get a bit more off the price? Half dosage of the main injection. Will that bring it down? What will that bring it down to? Total agony of 500. Okay, well look, I really want the lowest price deal. What if you do it with no injections at all? Yeah, I know, it will be absolutely agonisingly, excruciatingly painful, but I really mean it when I say lowest cost is the priority here. Okay. Alright, I'll hold. Can't believe you've never done it before without injection. Hello? Yeah, I'm still here. 200. Okay, that's great. That's a deal. Right. Can I book the wife in then, please?
Hold on.
200. Okay, that's great. That's a deal. Right. Can I book the wife in then, please?
Can I put the wife in then? It matters who's making decisions for who, right? If this is your dental care, you don't want this man negotiating what your price is going to be, okay? It matters who makes decisions. In the same way, when we're talking about taking, money, giving it from one to another, it matters, whose that money is, right? I mean, it's easy for us to be able to say that we should be able to take money and give it to others. But of course, it's involuntary, right? But what I want to talk about now are the two ways for us to get wealthy, right? Because you can get wealthy by taking it from others, or you can get wealthy from producing. And we're going to talk about producing first. Remember, production is us taking goods, services, resources that are valued and turning them into something that are valued more, okay? And this enhances the wealth of society, okay? This encourages the ability for people to avoid mistakes, avoid things that take resources and turn them into something that valued less. Because individuals, you see, they don't want to bear the cost of those mistakes. Okay, they have to. If you mess up, if you make a loss, that's on you, and you have to bear that. Okay, so production, if you use that to achieve wealth, you're not just making yourself wealthy, you're also making society wealthy, right? Because you are saving on costs, which means we can produce more things, and also whenever you're producing something, you're giving it to someone else. Yeah. So you're helping somebody else when you produce. However, the other way to get wealthy is to plunder. Now, I don't know about you guys, but hey, I wouldn't mind if your paycheck just had to go to me, right? I say that as a public school teacher. I wouldn't mind if your paycheck had to go to me, right? If we're making decisions about your paycheck, look, I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't mind it, right? But that would be me plundering, right? I would be taking what you have produced, okay? This wouldn't be generating any more wealth, right? I'm not getting wealthy because I generated wealth, as I would have been if I had produced to get wealth, right? I didn't generate any wealth. All I did was take yours, right? There's nothing new made, right? So this leads to a decrease in wealth for society as a whole, okay? So the government aids in production when it protects private property and provides public goods. This grows the economic pie, right? The government can help. When it protects private property rights, this will enable people to conserve, to produce, to invest in resources that are going to be able to turn those resources into something that's valued more, right? They're going to want to find ways to use their private property in such a way that it's a benefit to others. This is how we grow the economic pie, right? And the government then sacrifices that wealth creation or shrinking the pie when it takes from one group and gives to another, okay? We're not growing when we do that. We're just moving things around. As a matter of fact, we may be disincentivizing those to produce if it's just going to be someone else in the first place, and we may be disincentivizing people that are going to actually be receiving that transfer because now, well, they why should they do it, right? They're already getting something anyways, right? So this actually reduces wealth. You could say that any money being taken from one group and given to another is a form of plunder, right? Whether you're taking, it doesn't matter which individual you're taking from, whether it's a shareholder or a worker, you're plundering, right? You're taking the production of one and giving it to another, right? That said, though, when we look at businesses also are recipients of plunder, right? There's a lot of things in my taxes that end up going towards other individuals, right? And you don't have to plunder just by taking taxes, right? Just by doing transfers that we'll talk about later. There can also be the provision of private goods. Whatever the government provides private goods, it is essentially taking a market that would belong to a private entity and is now belonging to the government, right? And people are going to buy most likely from the government provider as it's going to be seeming more safe. And in some cases, it could be getting subsidized, right, with tax dollars, so it may seem cheaper. And even giving subsidies to private companies. Those are also a way to plunder, right? Because now we're taking money from one individual and we're giving it to another, which is a business, right? It could be log rolling and earmarks, right? Where now it's politicians are the beneficiaries, right? Where they're the transfers, right? Or at least their district is the transfer, right? Where I'm going to take some money from the federal budget, some money from every American, and then I'm going to put it into my district, right? So all of these, we're taking money from one individual and giving it to another because it's decreasing the amount of wealth that's being generated, right? Because normally when you're getting wealthy, it's because you're producing something, right? Whereas with plunder, the reason why you're getting wealthy is just because you're taking it from someone else, right? That's not a positive sum game. That's a zero sum game, right? You're just taking their one and now you have one, right? I would say that log rolling is like a way to trade earmarks. Yeah. So, how could we remove plunder? What's one way to kind of back off of this? Well, instead of having the government provide private goods, we could have people provide private goods. Businesses provide private goods, okay? So when private goods are provided by governments, people don't have much choice, right? Oftentimes, if the government is providing a good in their area, oftentimes that government provider of the private good is going to be the one that's most chosen most often because it's very hard for a private business to compete against the government when they're providing that private good. There have been some successes, right? There have been companies like UPS and FedEx that have been able to compete against USPS, right? The United States Postal Service. That's been largely because they've kind of co-opted USPS into kind of their business model where they rely on USPS for some parts of their shipping. But even still, the packages get to their location a lot faster when UPS and FedEx are used. And you also see this with schooling, right? I think a lot of kids are going to public schools simply because the public school is oftentimes very hard for private schools to compete against, right? Private schools really can't pay their teachers that much, whereas public schools oftentimes can attract more teachers because the teachers can be paid more. And this leads to there not being a lot of choice, right? You really only have a choice of a few public schools, and those public schools may not be the best, as they don't really have an incentive to increase how productive they are or how good of a school they are, because they know, what are they going to do? Just go to another public school? It's just as on the same level as us. So when we increase, when we privatize it, right, we are increasing the competition. Well, now that the students have the ability to choose, now maybe they can go to a better school, right? Instead of the government providing the education, maybe now they have some better educational options. When we have private options, it increases the choices, and now there's competition, not just among the private firms. There's also now competition for the government itself, right? If the government wants to keep providing this thing, providing education, they have to be able to beat the private schools. Yeah. So I was using schools as an option, but of course we could use many things. So really, if we want to prevent plunder, having these sketchy scenarios that arise where politicians can take from the federal bucket of dollars and take it into their own district, we really need to have a neutral government. We have to even ask, is that even possible? Can you have a neutral government? When we started our country, right, we were like, man, factions, bad idea, right? Washington was totally against factions. Literally the moment he steps down, Hamilton and Jefferson already at each other's throat, right? Starting the Federalist and Anti-Federalist parties, which eventually evolved into the Democrats and Republicans we know today, right? And we know that there's all sorts of special interest groups that are involved in the Republican and Democratic parties. I think one of my favorite quotes is that there's no difference between Democrats and Republicans except who their friends are, right? They all have people that they're taking money from and giving money to, and this is really, is it really possible for us to have a neutral government? That's one thing we may have to think about, okay? That's it. I'll see you guys for